The Disney Plus Star Wars universe is continuing to expand, and here we have The Mandalorian Season 3, which was the show that kicked it all off. It was so great in the beginning, but is it still great? Well, I'm going to give you 5 good things about Mandalorian Season 3 and 5 bad things as I recap this show, all right? But first, go into the description and click on that link for a free epic fantasy ebook, and remember to like and follow this amazing channel for more great content. All right, let's do it. Welcome back to Great Stories Change the World. This is the YouTube channel where an epic fantasy sci-fi author, that's me, goes over TV shows, movies, books, and different things to talk about what stories are great and why are they great. And I delve into things about story and storytelling and narrative so we can learn how to tell great stories, because I really do believe great stories do change the world. Now, a quick announcement for myself as an author. I signed 2 book contracts within the last month, and they are children's books. I also have an epic fantasy YA coming out sometime in the fall. So if you want more information about me and the kind of stuff that I write, then go into the description and click that link for a free ebook, and you'll give me your email, and that way you can stay kind of informed on the different writing projects that I'm doing. But let's just get into Star Wars. As I've said a lot of times on this channel and on podcasts and just with friends, I'm a Star Wars nerd. I'm not the biggest Star Wars geek or nerd or whatever you want to call them. I don't know everything, but I know a lot, and I've watched everything that Star Wars has put out, and I have bought most of it, even the bad stuff. I love all Star Wars, and I will watch even the bad stuff. Now, I won't buy all of it. There's one exception as far as something I didn't like and wouldn't buy. There's one Star Wars movie I haven't bought, and that's The Last Jedi. I just thought that was so not a good movie. But I still went to the theater and paid money to see it at least 2 times, maybe 3. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And I, like a lot of people, was skeptical about the Mandalorian show that came out a few years ago. But when it came out, I was just like everybody else and just floored by how awesome it was. The space western and all the different Easter eggs that they put in there, and how it was connected to the larger universe, and yet had this very simple story about a bounty hunter and who was a Mandalorian, and the Baby Yoda, which we later learn is Grogu. So I'm a huge fan. I loved Season 2. I thought Season 2 was great. It upped the stakes, and it introduced us to some more characters. And with success, what do companies do, right? When media companies see something successful, they try to make more of it so they can make more money. And so ever since The Mandalorian has become successful, there's all these plans about all these different new movies and definitely live action series. We have The Bad Batch, which I'm going to be doing a video about, recapping Bad Batch Season 2 on another video. So check out for that. But with The Mandalorian, it's successful, so they're going to have some of these different shows. And, you've got The Acolyte, you've got Ahsoka coming soon, which I'm super pumped about. And you had Andor, which I dug, and I've done a recap on that. So, go into my channel and check that review out. And I didn't like it as much as a lot of people did. Let's just say that. And I'll tell you why on the video. And of course, we had the Book of Boba Fett, which is directly connected to The Mandalorian. So they're trying to expand out this universe and connect all these things. And so after all that sort of expansion has happened, and they're going to try to continue it, then we get finally The Mandalorian Season 3. Of course, we had a couple episodes, and I'll go over this later, with The Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett. So I'm going to give you 5 things that I liked about Season 3. And I'm going to give you 5 things that I did not like about Season 3. All right. So without further ado, here we go. The good. Let's start with the good. The Mandalorians, all the things about the unification, all the different perspectives. This is all from the Clone Wars and from Rebels, those great animated series. So you can go back if you want to and watch a lot of that. But Filoni and Favreau's bringing a lot of that in and showing us in live action years down the road that their division was a big reason why Mandalore was able to be conquered. They were this warrior race and all of this stuff, but they had been divided, and there's all these different sects and political things, and you go over some of that in the Clone Wars especially, and that's where Bo-Katan is first introduced. And then Mandalorians come up again in Rebels. And so they're bringing some of that stuff in to this season, and I like that a lot, and I like the idea that it was a division that was allowed them to be conquered, and there's just a lot of that I liked, and how they're moving towards a more unified people, not forcing others to believe what they believe, but kind of trying to stick together to take back their home. And so I thought that was cool. Number 2, I really liked the droid life. Okay, I liked how on that one planet, that one episode with Jack Black, and he was captain whatever, which was awesome. You had Jack Black. Then they went to this bar where there were droids, and they questioned droids, and I just thought that was kind of cool. Like you don't think like maybe there's a culture with the droids, and you got some sense of that with Star Wars, right? Like we don't let their kind in here, and the Mandalorian himself was sort of against droids, and he's kind of come around to some of that. So I dug that aspect that they kind of brought in, because after the Clone Wars and the droid armies, and there would be some issues, right? Number 3, I dug Jack Black. Look, you had me at Jack Black, right? You had me at Jack Black. He's one of my favorite actors, and he's been in some awful movies. He's been in some amazing movies, but he is never the problem. His performances, he's got so much energy. He's just naturally funny, and I dug that he was in The Mandalorian, and so he played a pretty good character, and the Duchess was cool, and that whole episode was pretty cool overall. Right? Number 4, I really enjoyed how they were starting to set up how the First Order began. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the sequels, right? I know they say, what's a generational thing? You're old or whatever. I just don't think they were well planned out or organized, but they are part of canon now. So, and we all ask, like, why is it the Empire? Why isn't it the Empire again? Why is it the First Order? And there's all these questions about where Snoke came from and where these Praetorian Guards came from. And there's all these questions about where some of the stuff came from that they just sort of introduce in The Force Awakens. But here we're getting some lead up to that, where they're talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn and, where is he and all that stuff. He's going to be in Ahsoka. We know that, right? But all of that stuff is really cool to me because on the one hand, if I was a writer, I probably wouldn't want to connect it to the sequels because I'm not a big fan. But at the same time, you're writing Star Wars, okay? You are a part of Star Wars, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Kathleen Kennedy has pushed some of this, and I'll get to why this is in some ways a bad thing later on. But I think she's pushed some of this to make it more interconnected with the sequels, and they haven't really done a bad job with it. They're starting to show some inklings that maybe the Republic isn't as strong as it should be. Maybe the Empire, there's the remnants of the Empire. And the Empire, the remnants of the Empire, like, they wouldn't just give up, right? I mean, a lot of those guys, a lot of the officers, they had power. They just wouldn't give that up. That's just history, right? If you know history, they don't just lay down and roll over. And especially guys with battleships and stormtroopers and resources and all that sort of stuff. So they're starting to act like the rebellion acted in the original Star Wars, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, all that stuff. So I find that very interesting, and I like the way that they're doing it, and it's pretty cool. And lastly, number 5, the good about the Mandalorian season 3, number 5, is that the battles. Yes, sometimes there's too much going on and you can get kind of lost, but they did a really good job showing us what we want, right? We want more Mandalorians fighting somebody, and you kind of had that in the first season. And just like that little scene in one of those early episodes was so cool. The Mandalorians, that little cohort, help him. But here we have unified Mandalorians, and now they're going to go back and try to fight for Mandalore and try to take it back. And so we have the Empire, who is still there somehow. I guess because Mandalore is kind of a forgotten place. They think it's cursed or whatever. And so here they have their own sort of Beskar enhanced sort of armor, and that's somewhat from the Clone Wars and that sort of stuff too. They're bringing some of that in, and so I just thought that was cool. The battles are cool. The battle scenes were cool for the most part, and fighting Moff Gideon, fighting these things was really cool, and I just liked it. I liked a lot of the battles. All right, now let's get into the bad. Okay, the bad. First of all, as you start to expand a universe, you're going to start to have some problems, all right? And unless you manage these well, then you're going to get some questions, you're going to get some plot holes, you're going to get some lazy writing. You actually have to work harder. This is my point. As a writer, if you're going to expand your story, and as a writer, let me just tell you, there's a lot of value to expanding your universe. That's really important. People want bigger stories. Marvel changed the game. Lord of the Rings changed the game. They want bigger universes. They're ready for more universes, right? And Marvel, to some degree, figured it out up until maybe Endgame. I think Marvel's kind of slipping a little bit with that, with working out the extended universe. But here we have The Mandalorian, and Star Wars are trying to do it. And you would think Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy would have learned from Marvel with the sequels, but they didn't. So they're expanding this universe, and they're starting to have some problems. That's why you have 2 basically Mandalorian episodes in the middle of the Book of Boba Fett, which unfortunately was way better than anything that had been in the Book of Boba Fett up to that point. I like the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett, but it wasn't that great. I mean, the series wasn't really that great. And some of the best parts about it were Luke Skywalker. And just imagine if instead of starting out season 3, so now you start out season 3 and the Mandalorian and Baby Grogu are back together when he gave Grogu up at the end of season 2. So you have to watch this other series in order to not be confused. And I think it would have made for a stronger season if they had put those 2 Mandalorian episodes. They only have 8. They had put those 2 Mandalorian episodes at the beginning of season 3 because you didn't really need it in the Book of Boba Fett. They just didn't want to tell it at the beginning of season 3. You could have still had the Mandalorian go through something on his own, right? In the Book of Boba Fett, and then he joins them and all that sort of stuff. I just think there's some problems, and we'll go over some more of those later. A lot of these decisions were kind of convoluted. What was great about season 1 with The Mandalorian is there was a series goal, right? By the end of the series, he was trying to find what to do with this kid, right? And he was given more direction with that at the end of season 1, right? Jedi, you got to find a Jedi and all that sort of stuff. So the goal shifts a little bit at the end of season 1. So he's trying to find Jedi, which is how he gets with Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker and stuff like that in season 2, right? And so at the end of season 2, he's completed his goal. So what's the new goal going to be? Well, again, they could have done a much better job bringing out that it was to retake Mandalore. And you kind of have some of those hints in the beginning, but it's a little confusing. Are they trying to make Bo-Katan a villain now? But no, she's she's kind of turning the corner. Now she's a good guy and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of those decisions in the beginning were sort of convoluted and just sort of happened for story reasons instead of really being a part of natural decision making by the characters. Number 3, this is one of my big hangups about this season. If you show the mythosaur, you got to do something with the mythosaur. All right. Now, I love the fact that they saw the mythosaur. It's a real creature, and the armor was like, I don't know if I really believe you, but Bo-Katan's like, look, I'm serious. I got the Darksaber now, and there was a mythosaur, and this is all sort of like signs that they should go back to Mandalore. And at some point, we should have seen more of the mythosaur. Like, that would have been a cool thing in the last couple episodes. Like, as they go into their darkest moment or something. They could have done something creative. Now, it would have been a little trite if they had just, oh no, the mythosaur. But they could have done something interesting with it. And I think it would have just blown everybody's minds. There was a way to do it. But instead, you're like, oh, there's a mythosaur. And then at the end, they just kind of show, oh, he opens his eyes or whatever. All right. Number 4 of the bad. So I did the good. Now I'm in the bad. Number 4 of the bad is Bo-Katan is supposed to be this amazing leader, warrior leader, right? She's got the armor. She's been trained, all this sort of stuff. She leads a scout party to Mandalore to check and see if it's safe. So that everyone else can land, because all the other Mandalorians and Axwovs and all those guys are up in the sky and up in space in orbit waiting for the word, because they got families and they got kids. And so is it going to be safe before we all come down there? Let's see what the situation is. Well, when Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian and Baby Grogu, who is kind of weird that they put Baby Grogu in the IG-12 thing. I love the memes, by the way, which kind of liken them to, some other villains that have, the creature in the stomach sort of thing. All that to say is, when you find out the Empire is there, this is a scouting party. You're not warriors in this instance. You're not an army in this instance. I know all Mandalorians are one-person armies and all of that stuff, but this was a scouting party. This had a specific goal. And so here you have Bo-Katan just leading these Mandalorians into a trap, into an obvious trap. As they go through the tunnels, the scenery kind of changes, and it looks more and more like the Empire, which she would have known. It's a big plot hole to me. It's just, they had to get the Mandalorian captured. They had to have some sort of cliffhanger at the end of that season 7. And again, that's what I'm talking about. Convoluted decisions by characters. There was no sort of like, oh, she's angry, so she makes a bad decision. Like, at this point, there's like, oh, the Empire, we got to go back and regroup. They could be attacking our people. Like, there's all sorts of things that a good leader would have had to decide, at least because it's a scouting party. Okay, well, we scouted. Let's be done. I'm going over and over this, but it's a plot hole, and it's a problem. All right. Lastly, but not leastly, my 5th thing that's bad about season 3 is all of the things they didn't do. I already talked about the mythosaur, but this is the problem with the expanded universe. Because it happens in comic books too, and it happens in Marvel, it happens in DC. You watch some things with movies and shows and stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, like, where's Cara Dune? Now, we all know the news, which is that the actress who played Cara Dune is whatever. They kind of canceled her and they fired her because of some stuff that they didn't like that she said on Twitter or whatever it was. So we get why, we know why, but at the same time, they really just kind of throw her off. But she's an amazing character, okay? And I'm just disappointed she wasn't involved at the end here somehow, because this is someone they could have called, right? This is someone that they could have called. Now, I know it was just a Mandalorian thing, but again, I think she's an amazing character, and it's kind of disappointing me that they've just kind of written her out of everything in the extended universe here. And then they go through all this trouble to take Mandalore, and the Mandalorian decides, I'm going to go live on Navarro. Now, I get, right? So they set up where he adopts Grogu so he can train Grogu, because Grogu can't yet speak enough to say the vows and stuff, to take the way, all that sort of stuff, to be initiated. But you could still, and so he needs to go around, like this is how they set up the end. He's going to need to go around on more adventures, basically. He's going to need to go around and train Grogu, go on some travels and do some missions and stuff like that. So I get that that's what they set up, but I don't know why you had to be on, Navarro for that to happen. You just decided that was, there's no real reason. They could have done that on Mandalore, and he could have been checking in, and they could have gone more into that. And also, they're kind of taking the role. So they're along with the Gina actress thing and Cara Dune, like they had a show set up where she was going to have pretty much her own show, and so now they're really going to give that sort of show to the Mandalorian in season 4. That's really what they set up, right? Because he meets with the Republic guy, New Republic guy, and who's a great actor. I love him that they're including him as the pilot guy, captain. But it's just kind of, it's weird. It's a little petty and it's a little weird to me. And why can't we call other people when the Empire is back? And you literally see that they have a whole base, and Moff Gideon is doing all this crazy stuff. You know where Luke Skywalker is, all right? He's training other Jedi. I get it, or whatever the thing is. And Ahsoka is on her own path. So maybe you don't try to call Ahsoka. You don't try to call Luke Skywalker. You don't try to call these people and be like, hey, can you help us? I get it. Maybe they just wanted it to be the Mandalorians who did it on their own. But all that to say is that's kind of the problem with the expanded universe, is that you got to have a reason why they don't call Superman, right, to help. If you know Superman's number and you're Batman in Gotham City and you're getting overwhelmed, why don't you call Superman? Or vice versa, or all this sort of stuff. And they do it in the Justice League, and they do it in the movies or whatever, where they're all supposed to be together. But it's one of the problems. You got to come up with a reason why they just have to do it on their own, or they can't call this person or that. And they do it a little bit in Marvel, where it's like, oh, we tried to call him, but he's gone, and she's out in the universe, or blah, 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 right? And it gets kind of convoluted at times. But that's the problem with the expanded universe. I like the expanded universe. I like some of the things that they're doing with it. But at the same time, I don't know why you don't call Luke Skywalker. I mean, this guy, you saw what he did at the end of season 2. Let's have him. And he's not partial to the Empire. All of that. So that's my 5 good things. A lot of things that I liked about this season. But I think they're coming up to some problems in the expanded universe with Star Wars and Disney Plus, and you're starting to see some of that. And I thought there were some plot holes and some different things in this season. Now, I also I understand why they did it, but I didn't put it on my list. I didn't like that they destroyed the Darksaber. I mean, we could have used that a little bit more, I think, but it was cool overall. All right, so you let me know what you think of this season. What are some things that you liked, some things you didn't like, or maybe you just disagree with everything I said? Put it in the comments. And remember to go down into the description, click on that link for that free book, follow this channel so you can get some more great content. I've got some great guests coming up and some more announcements on my books and stuff. So stay tuned, all right? Peace out.